Flowers grow around here. Flowers grow around here. Flowers grow around here.
Hi friends, it is I. Hi. So today I wanted to share with you guys just a very short little quick overview of how exactly it is that functional mushrooms can have this very beneficial effect on our immune system. Just to be clear though, I'm not going to get into any nitty-gritties today. There's not going to be any mention of specific cellular mechanisms underpinning the reaction. Not because that's not relevant, that's a very important discussion too, and we'll have that discussion in the future. But today I just wanted to give like a very clear, highest possible level overview of how it is functional mushrooms interact with our bodies to help produce a positive effect on our immune system. Right. So it's super simple. On the highest possible level, when we think about this, there are basically two ways in which functional mushrooms can beneficially or positively influence your immunity. It's an indirect method and the direct method. Right, so the direct pathway or the direct mechanism, that's really the simplest one to understand, and that's probably what you think of intuitively in any way when we say that functional mushrooms support the immune system. And it's basically that there are compounds in functional mushrooms that will bind to very specific receptors within the human body called PRRs. PRR stands for pattern recognition receptor. So PRRs are basically protein receptors that we evolved for the sole reason to be able to be bound by and activated by compounds that we do not produce endogenously, that's to say within the human body, but compounds that are most likely found either in plants or fungi. So these are the receptors that allow these compounds that from other foreign organisms to bind to our receptors and then actually have some kind of an influence. Right? So within functional mushrooms, there's a broad range of different compounds that are able to bind to PRRs and then directly stimulate the immune system. And when I say directly stimulate the immune system, I basically mean that they are able to upregulate, that is, increase the production of immune cells. So there are specific immune cells like macrophages or lymphocytes or natural killer cells or T cells. They're able to upregulate the production of these. Or we also have specific messenger molecules that are involved in the immune response. So a very common and well-known class of these are called cytokines. And they can also be upregulated. So in other words, compounds in mushrooms combine to a specific evolved receptor to allow us to express more components that play their role in the immune response. Now, like I said in the previous video, that this is contextual, and that's because functional mushrooms serve as immune modulators. So they will not upregulate the immune system when it is already overactive, for example, in a person dealing with an autoimmune disease. But when contextually it is able to sense in a certain way that a higher degree of expression of the immune system would be beneficial at that point in time, then it will go ahead and do that. So it's the intelligence of nature and the intelligence of our own bodies working together to figure out what the body needs, and then if necessary, it will go ahead and express that. Okay, so that's the direct method, very simple. The indirect method is actually pretty much just as simple. I just want to preface by saying, when we call something direct and indirect, it might give the impression that the direct is somehow more important or pronounced than the indirect, and that's really not the case. It could be, but it could also not be. These things are very contextual. There's no single rule that reigns supreme in all circumstances, right? It might be that in your specific situation, you get more of an indirect benefit, or in another case, it might be that you get more of a direct benefit. It really just depends where your body's at and what its needs are in the specific point in time that you are consuming functional mushrooms, right? So the indirect method just means it helps stimulate the immune system by proxy. And the proxy in this case, the intermediary, is your gut, right? We spoke about this last week when I discussed about turkey tail and some of the amazing beneficial effects that it can have in your gut system. But it's mostly true for most of the functional mushrooms. And that's because one of the most important classes of compounds in functional mushrooms are called fungal beta-glucans. So these are very specific kind of carbohydrates that, more than anything, are food for the bacteria living in our gut. Once it has a beneficial effect on the bacteria in our gut, then we reap the benefits of a healthy and robust gut flora. When we consume this, and it helps to create stronger and more robust bacterial ecologies in our intestinal tract, it leads to a myriad of other benefits. But one of the most pronounced benefits that has been studied and articulated is specifically an improvement of your overall immune system, right? In this sense, really, I think about the direct immune response more as the reactionary once your system has been breached, right? Once there is a pathogen that made it inside of your body, the direct method is more how is your body then able to deal with that? How severe will the expression of that disease be? How quickly is your body able to get rid of it and thus get back to normal everyday health, right? Whereas I think about having a robust and healthy gut flora, and thus the indirect method of immune stimulation, I think of that more as our invisible shield, as our everyday, all the time defenses, and thus supporting that really minimizes the probability of us getting sick in the first place. So these two aren't in competition with one another. They're basically two levels or layers of the same thing that we're expressing as two discrete things just for the convenience of helping to understand it. But really, ultimately, it's one giant, continuous, complex, intelligent system which is embedded within our complete being, right? But as always, invite you guys to please hit me up below. Let me know in the comment section if there are any specific topics you'd like me to cover. Can be related to functional mushrooms, doesn't have to be either. Anything's fair game, anything you guys want to discuss related to functional mushrooms or wellness or natural medicines, super happy to chat about it. Hope you guys have a beautiful day. Goodbye.
Yeah!